So, Tobin, it's great to see you here at IFA. I thought it might be a good opportunity for us to get back together and really discuss what's been happening in both of our respective organizations and how we see connectivity growing, especially in the IoT space.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Kevin, as always. And Our collaboration, I think, is really shared by a lot of companies out on the show floor. It's been really neat to see the collaboration and innovation that's happening on the show floor with so many different joint members and companies as well.
Absolutely. And maybe what we could start with is a little bit about Connectivity Standards Alliance. And it's really only been just over, I guess, 3 years since kind of the rebranding. And it's hard to believe that it has only been 3 years because it's been an incredibly transformative time, I think, for the organization, particularly from somebody who has a little bit more of an outsider's view. So I'd love to hear really what's been going on with the evolution of the organization.
Yeah, it's a really good point. We rebranded the name of the organization 3 years ago. That was really as part of the giving life to Project Chip or Connected Home over IP, giving that a name with Matter, but then changing the organization's name from Zigbee Alliance to Connectivity Standards Alliance. And exactly that, it reflects kind of the transformation that was happening in the market. This notion of openness for all smart home products, really getting past closed ecosystems to open ecosystems. But it really follows this kind of path of ensuring that the ecosystems are open, products are usable, interoperable anywhere by anybody, but also at the same time with this proliferation of devices, making sure that we're doing that in a way that respects privacy and is ensuring the highest level of security. So the organization itself has really evolved to meet that demand through partnerships with the Wi-Fi Alliance and others, but also really how we work ourselves. And it's really been kind of a fascinating learning journey as we work to both keep that great community that was the kind of the core of what the Zigbee Alliance was at that time, and really bring that to IP-based standards, doing that in a secure way, doing that, of course, with privacy and everything else that makes what the future of the smart home is going to be. And it's certainly been a challenge in a lot of ways because we have a wonderful community, but at the same time, it's really about making sure that we can continue to evolve and grow as an organization.
So Matter is one area that's of particular interest to Wi-Fi Alliance and our members, of course, with Wi-Fi being one of the two underlying transport technologies for Matter. So maybe you could speak a bit about what you see as kind of the evolution of Matter and looking forward and where you see that technology and that ecosystem growing to.
As you mentioned before, right, the organization's transforming, the industry is transforming. Matter is a really key pillar to that transformation. And so nurturing it in the right way, ensuring that we have all the right players and companies involved is really critical. We've adopted a Wi-Fi approach of kind of doing release schedules. And that is something that I think has really been very useful for us, just like normal software updates and things like that. We have this, twice a year release schedule. So we finished with 1.3 back in May. We'll have a 1.4 release coming up in the fall. But that's been really important for us to both bring in new features, meet aggressive timelines, and also provide certainty to product manufacturers on what they're going to see in terms of availability of the specification. So good visibility, transparency to that, but also making sure we're hitting important timelines. Sometimes features don't get in that you want. Certainly, I think in this first 2 to 4 years, we're going to have a lot of new features, but we're also going to have a lot of maintenance releases too. So 1.3 back in May had a lot of new energy device support, energy measurement, vehicle charging, as well as appliances. So a lot of good features that can have a really strong impact on sustainability, and of course on the different kinds of devices and services that companies can bring into the market. So that release schedule, that approach, I think has been really good for us. Again, one of those learning areas for us, because before we just took the approach of, we'll release it when everybody's ready, and having kind of a more time-bound approach means some things are in and out, but really does provide that kind of good pace and as well as a good visibility for companies to understand what's in, what can I build to, or what do I need to look at for the next release. So taking that kind of approach, how are things at the Wi-Fi Alliance? You've also you yourself have been in this role. You've been with the Wi-Fi Alliance a good long time, but now it's an opportunity for you to take your vision and your experience. How's the last year been in your new role as the CEO?
Well, it's been great, and it's such an honor to lead an organization like the Wi-Fi Alliance that has such an incredible global impact. And of course, there are the things that we do incredibly well. We have the subsequent generations of Wi-Fi, each new generation delivering better security, better performance, more lower latency, which means greater consistency in the types of experiences you get in those devices. But one of the things I think that I've certainly tried to focus on and have the organization focus on is how do we collaborate better with other organizations? Wi-Fi is an incredibly horizontal technology, meaning that it underlies most everything that we see out there today, and ends up being an ingredient in things like Matter or in other ecosystems. So I think it's really an important focus for us as an organization to find ways to really make sure we're meeting the needs of those ecosystems and technologies that are building on top of Wi-Fi. And that's one of the reasons I've kind of value our collaboration, both personally as well as with the organizations, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make many of these initiatives successful in the market.
I could not agree more. Yeah, and that collaboration part is really important for us. You are, expanding the kind of the footprint of Wi-Fi, which is already global in billions of devices. How do you think about that in terms of consumer experiences and what you're doing that really kind of touches the end consumer through that process?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's quite a bit of focus in the Alliance now on, again, that experience and the consistency and in learning. You mentioned that with Matter's release schedule, there are things that either don't make it in or you learn something, you go back and you tweak. And that's something that the Wi-Fi industry has done for quite some time. But I think there's a renewed focus on it now as the types of applications that are being placed upon Wi-Fi and the demands are being placed upon Wi-Fi are more demanding. And so it's important that we're delivering that consistency of experience.
So we have a great collaboration, Kevin. There are a lot of companies that we share. What have you seen on the show floor this year that's really been interesting to you?
So one of the great things of going to shows like IFA, CES, Mobile World Congress, et cetera, is it tends to be very invigorating. You get to see just the strong representation of your members out in the market. They're solving real problems. They're having a real impact on people's lives. And I think IFA is no different. And we're seeing incredible momentum in the area of IoT. But of course, one of the kind of the meta trends of all of this is the importance of connectivity. And that really can't be overstated. You look at some of the themes that are being talked about in a show, they're talking about things like AI. They're talking about things like sustainability. And these themes ultimately have connectivity as their foundation. AI is a great example. AI does not happen if you don't have the ability to get the data in those devices to the learning models, and then to get the learnings and the guidance on behaviors back to those devices. And that requires connectivity, whether it's using Wi-Fi or it's using another technology. It absolutely relies on connectivity. You look at things like sustainability, and there's really kind of two parts to that. You have the aspect of just the benefits that these devices are bringing, being smarter in their energy usage, allowing people to really kind of customize them to how they're living, and ultimately driving down a lot of the energy usage that you see in the world today, whether it's in HVAC, at home using the pool pumps, things like that, and only doing those things maybe when rates are lower or there's less demand on the grid. As somebody who lives in Texas, that's a very important point. In the summer, we certainly have periods where there's incredible demand on the grid, and some of these smart devices can really help alleviate that. And then the final piece I would highlight in terms of sustainability is just energy usage from the devices themselves. So when you look at how you deliver connectivity to those devices, and that connectivity is essential, is it going to be using something like unlicensed, which of course both of our organizations are very much focused on unlicensed technologies. Wi-Fi Alliance recently commissioned a study with WIC Consult, and it was looking at, okay, what is the energy usage of using something like fiber broadband combined with a local area technology like Wi-Fi that is indoors, compared to, let's say, serving those IoT devices from an outdoor network over a wide area network. In Europe, by 2030, the difference between those two scenarios is 3 megatons of CO2 just for Europe. So again, a lot of the things we're seeing here have very real impacts on people, their lives, and the planet. And I think that's great to see. So in the end, I see that the momentum in what we see on the showroom floor, it's going to grow. We're going to have more and more members in common that are delivering these services and these products, especially as they recognize the value of collaboration and interoperability, which I know both of our organizations are very much focused on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what I've seen on the show floor really kind of reflects that too, that focus on collaboration. I think you hit it too. It is really about that delivering that end user consumer experience. And what's been great to see this year at IFA is this notion of that connectivity is just really an ingredient and foundational piece. And what you're seeing is it's just permeating, it's everywhere. And so now these companies can really focus on, great, now what can I do with that? And there are some use cases that are fairly straightforward, and especially in energy efficiency, demand response programs like the aggregated devices. If you can turn off, a million thermostats, that may be a tiny 1 or 2 degrees to an end consumer, but in terms of the grid, you avoid peaker power plants, which has a great impact on the environment. So it's really great to see that, and absolutely right. It is important that all of these have to be connected in order for that benefit to be realized. And it's also great. You talked about kind of the enthusiasm, and I share that enthusiasm and that invigoration when you come down here. Our members, we see them at member meetings, thousands and thousands of calls where they're collaborating. But when you come to the shows, you really see kind of the outcome of their work, and it's infectious, the enthusiasm, right? Because it's great communities that we have that we share, but when they are able to bring these into the wild, as it were, it's really exciting to see how enthusiastic they are, both on the engineering side that are working on the standards, the connectivity in the background, but really getting closer then to what those user experiences are, and they can really see the benefit of what that looks like. It's so really exciting to see all this.
Yeah, absolutely. It really makes it real. And getting a little bit more into that collaboration piece, because obviously the CSA and Wi-Fi Alliance have had an ongoing collaboration. And I think it's been successful. There's always learning to work with a new partner, and frankly, CSA has been great to work with. What do you see as areas where our collaboration can grow, we can strengthen it? How do you see this collaboration potentially moving forward?
Yeah, the relationship with the Wi-Fi Alliance, I think, is one of the most important things for Matter and for our members on that side. I think there are a lot of areas that we can continue to work on, but also, a couple that I would focus on are one, focusing on the security. Wi-Fi Alliance has been around for 25 years. You've lived and breathed and learned all the hard lessons on how to make devices secure. As we bring Matter into the world on top of proven technologies, consumers, are really concerned about the data privacy, how secure these devices are. If we can partner on the security side to make sure that as we bring Matter into the real world, and that as Matter's already in millions of devices, doing that in a way that consumers can say, okay, yeah, I understand Wi-Fi. Everybody knows what Wi-Fi is. We know that it is as secure as you're going to get in terms of a connectivity standard. If I'm bringing this other standard of interoperability and it's tied in there, I have a higher confidence level. And I think you're going to erase some of those concerns that consumers may have about getting into the smart home and these newfangled devices that do cool new things. Is it still tied into really secure protocols like Wi-Fi? So I think that's one area that is going to be really important for us. And as you mentioned, on the engineering side, we have hundreds of companies as members. You have hundreds of companies as members. They're building thousands of products. Making sure all these product plans all line up means that we're always balancing what is the priority of the day, what is the priority of the next year, and then working on that collaboration. So I will say I think we have a lot to learn from the Wi-Fi Alliance in terms of how to well do that, but also making sure that we can continue to collaborate on new features, new improvements to the standards as well as how the Matter standard really integrates with Wi-Fi products around the world.
And the learning definitely goes both ways in this. I think one of the things we've really benefited from, especially being at some of your meetings, is the perspective that your members have brought on how the end user is actually using these applications and these devices. And in the end, that collaboration, that information flow back and forth, only makes both our organizations stronger.
Absolutely. And the one other thing I would say, it's also important, I'd be curious to your point of view is on certification. As we look at collaborating well, it is really important that we are building the infrastructure in the background and the processes so that when you see Matter devices on Wi-Fi, that it's carrying the same imprimatur of the alliances and that has that security built in. But that means going through some steps that are important so that consumers continue to have that trust in what devices come out with Matter and certification. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And when you look at interoperability, it is absolutely essential to the success of IoT. And as both of us know, interoperability is just kind of a fancy industry term for products work well together regardless of vendor. And as I said, that's table stakes. The IoT is not going to really move forward. It's not going to grow. It's not going to be successful if you don't have that level of interoperability. And where I think it's difficult and tricky, particularly with how CSA and Matter is focused kind of on one part of the technology, and then Wi-Fi Alliance is focused on another part of the technology, is both of those programs, those interoperability certification programs, they have to work well independently, and together they have to be perfectly complementary so that the overall interoperability is assured for the entire stack. It's difficult to do, it's difficult to coordinate, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. Because things like Wi-Fi certified ensure to that end user, as you said, that device, it's going to work well, it's going to have the latest security protections so that the consumer can feel confident in buying it. And it provides a level of, I think, assurance even to the device manufacturers, right? Because the interoperability goes through the entire value chain, from the chipset vendor down into the device and ultimately into software and services that you're focusing on. So again, Wi-Fi certified, I think, is essential, and it's good that we have this relationship and kind of this requirement between the two organizations and the certifications that ensure that the underlying Wi-Fi is certified, so the end user gets that expected experience.
I think you hit on a couple important points there too, right? Which is, the consumer is going to continue to have that trust level. And we know that as we have all of these new devices coming out, new experiences, the first question from a lot of consumers is going to be, do I trust that my data is being managed well? Is this something that's going to be hacked? Are people going to be able to get into my house? And if it's based on core technologies like this that are so well proven, been around for decades, that's going to add to that. But you don't get there unless you go through the labeling process and the certification process that all of these other companies have put together and put a lot of time and effort into ensuring that really kind of raises the tide for all boats. That's super important, of course, as you look at kind of, if I'm a small company and I want to bring a product into this market, not only am I following a good process because that's the right thing to do, but I'm saving tons of developer resources because these companies have already done it. And they've already, kind of gone through the hard part of discovering where the security pain points are, how to make all these things work. And so there is really kind of an incredible building block that's being put in place by all the companies that have been there today. Getting new companies in, that hurdle is much lower, both on the security side, but the development side, as well as then coming up with focusing more on what that consumer end user experience looks like in the field, because you can take advantage of these proven technologies.
And in fact, that industry learning cycle is something that we've been thinking about quite a bit in the Alliance. Again, it's a mature technology, but even 25 years in, there's always things you're learning about the technology, how it reacts, how it interacts with other devices out in the market. And so the more that we are able to, again, feed those learnings back into the certification programs, as you said, even though there's a barrier in a sense of going through the program, preparing for it, it also, in another sense, reduces barriers because you're not having to go through the hard knocks, let's say, of other organizations, other companies have for 20 plus years. And some of those learnings may only be 6 months old, right? And if you're a smaller company, you benefit immensely from having those checks that your product is going to meet those expectations.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great benefit and a great opportunity to collaborate between our two organizations and our membership and our really incredible and unique communities to work together.
Well, Tobin, it's been a pleasure to sit down and chat with you always, and I certainly value the collaboration with CSA, value the collaboration and insight I get from you as the CEO of CSA, and look forward to that ongoing well into the future, and really just success for both of our organizations.
Success for our organizations means success for consumers. So absolutely. And always a great opportunity and a great pleasure to sit down with you, Kevin.
Thanks, Tobin.